Hey guys, thanks for coming to another informative episode of the Comic Book University. I'm your host, Professor Bill. Let's get started. We're going to talk about Black Mariah. In the Luke Cage TV show, she's just known as Mariah Dillard. But there is that reference, if you catch it. Cottonmouth says to her, "All right, Black Mariah." Now, this is in reference to allowing us comic book nerdy fans to look at the comics and look at this and say, oh, yeah, because I never would have made that connection. Now, if you guys do check out my very exhaustive 13-episode playlist of all of the Luke Cage commentary for each episode for the Netflix series, you'll see, I think it was in the first episode that I do make mention that Mariah Dillard must be Black Mariah because same name. And I remember this, even though this was all the way back in issue number 5. That's right, guys. We're going all the way back to Hero for Hire, Luke Cage, number 5. That was in January of 1973. Now, it was really only a one-shot that she was in. She was just this leader of first off, she was 400 pounds. She was a big mamma jamma. Now, she was the leader of this small group of criminals, and these guys, what they did was they had an ambulance, and they would get little tips on the streets from local thugs and people that were less than positive for the community. We'll just say that. These guys would see someone who would die on the streets, and they would make this phone call over to Black Mariah, and she would send out her boys with the ambulance to pick up this dead body. It would look real legit. But at the end of the day, they would just simply take the guy's belongings and toss the body. Now, she got that name because back in the day, a hearse was called a Black Mariah. When you saw the hearse coming by, they would make a comment along those lines. Yeah, this is before my time, and yes, I had to look it up, but so did you. Realistically, there was nothing special about that first issue. It was just, I don't know, a really good idea on Netflix's part to utilize that character and to make her a cousin of Cottonmouth. Mind you, the Netflix series was radically different than the comics. Aside from using certain characters as names, there was really only that extended understanding of the relevance of the characters to the comics. So now we don't see Black Mariah again, Mariah Dillard, until a decade later.
10 years later.
Guys, I'm talking about Power Man and Iron Fist, Heroes for Hire, issue number 88. That's December of 1982. Yeah, so 1 month shy of a decade. Come on, just let it go. Now, Power Man and Iron Fist have been working together for a number of years now, and what they often do is they'll separate to try and cover more grounds. That's what they did here because a new drug has hit the streets. It's called Acid Z. Now this drug is pretty much exactly like its namesake, acid, except it's got added side effects of causing irrational, crazy behavior like bath salts. And it also gives you suicidal ideas. Now, Luke Cage's secretary friend DW was actually involved with this, not on the selling or distribution end, but on the receiving, buying end. And he took some and he went a little... So DW wanders off from a party and Luke Cage goes to follow him. And Iron Fist decides that he's going to go and try and find the source of the drugs. Now, Iron Fist actually finds the source and he goes up and Black Mariah is there. Now, he's never really met Black Mariah. Heard of her a little, but that's really it. The really tricky part is that she hired a bodyguard, protection, in the form of Iron Fist's old foe, Scimitar. These two fight, and Black Mariah jumps in, and it gets really messy, and Iron Fist gets thrown out of the window of a high-rise. He's falling, almost splat, except Luke Cage came back with a tip that he'd gotten to go here, and fortunately, he caught Iron Fist. Yeah, we see who was pulling the weight in this team. So now, a team again, they both go up and they're able to beat the living snot out of everybody up there, and once again, Mariah goes back to jail. Now, believe it or not, the next time that we hear of Black Mariah is this year. Well, if you're watching this video this year. I'm filming this in 2016, okay? So Mariah is on the streets again, and she's not doing drugs. She's not grabbing bodies off the street. Now she's trying to ingrain herself in the criminal activity of the streets by slowly knocking off everybody else. And she starts with Tombstone. Now, there are basically two Tombstones who are the same guy. One is the Tombstone who first showed up and messed with Spider-Man and Daredevil, and he was really cool. And then there was Tombstone after those initial stories where he was completely irrelevant and got punked out at every opportunity. He was pretty much like the mafia version of Rhino, always getting beaten up by somebody just to show how tough that somebody is. Believe it or not, they were the same guy. I don't know how characters get thrown away like that. Tombstone used to be really cool. Yes, I'll make a video about Tombstone. So she's trying to find this item called the Super Soul Stone. Yeah, this has blaxploitation written all over it. I half expect Don Cornelius to be holding the thing. Soul Train! All right, note to self, edit that last part out because that's really embarrassing. Anyway, continuing with the video. So Mariah is able to trick this girl into tricking Luke Cage and Iron Fist, the new Heroes for Hire reformed. This is actually volume 3, that the Heroes for Hire. What? And they break into Tombstone's facility. He actually has the Super Soul Stone. Why, I don't know. And they bring it back to this girl who is essentially irrelevant, Jenny. And now this girl has minor superpowers, and she's under the thumb of Black Mariah, and they're gonna go and try and take over the city. Basically, it's like a new super villainous team, Black Mariah and White Jenny. Realistically, it's just a ploy to bring her back because the Netflix show was coming out and they knew that they were going to use those characters. So either way, guys, that's the only 3 times really that Black Mariah Dillard, has appeared in the comic books. She doesn't have a very storied history, even though it does go way back to the mid-70s. Good job, Netflix. And to be honest, the Netflix series really does have a much more engaging character, and I really can't wait to see what else they're going to do with Mariah Dillard. I'm entrenched in this, and I can't wait to see more. Guys, that's it for this lesson in Comic Book University. Class dismissed.